Schnall, and I'm here with Lead with Giants Community, doing TV on air. And my guest today is Don Baruska and Jay Perry, the authors of Take Charge of Your Talent. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you today?
Great, Tal.
Great, Tal. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for the opportunity and being with us this afternoon. I know you guys are busy with the book, and some of the ideas you share with many leaders out there in the world has an inspiring message. Thank you guys for both joining us. So why don't we do a little bit of an introduction. Don, would you like to go ahead and start a little bit of introduction about you, and we look forward to sharing your feedback also about the book as well.
Sure. Well, my background is as founder and CEO of 3 Silicon Valley companies, a venture investor and others that became public companies. And so I really come from an entrepreneurial place. For the last 20 years, I've been helping other people be successful with their teams and organizations as a master certified coach, and have written 2 books, How Great Decisions Get Made, and now co-authoring with Jay Perry, Take Charge of Your Talent. So I really enjoy helping to bring forth the best in people and to have them enjoy that experience.
Great, great. Sounds exciting. Jay, talk to me about your experience too, because I know you've got some interesting background as well. So tell us about yourself, Jay.
Well, I actually started off working in the theater, Tal, and in the 70s and 80s we worked with about 5,000 actors, helping them develop their businesses and taking charge of their lives, and that led me into the coaching profession in the early 90s, and I was sort of in the right place at the right time, got to work with the legendary Thomas Leonard as my mentor, and together with him we started Coach University, the first virtual training program for coaches, and the International Coach Federation, still sort of the gold standard in certification for coaches. So I've been doing that ever since. And I'm really pleased that Don and I have been able to partner on this project, Take Charge of Your Talent, because what we tried to do is bring the essence of coaching to every person on the planet. That's really a part of our vision. We love coaching, and we also are aware that it's right now something that not everybody has the resources to access or the time to access. So we've tried to do this essential version of coaching, which we'll talk more about as we get into the conversation.
Great. So tell me, how was this book born? How was this idea came about between you two and maybe some other folks, I'm sure, background to the book? How was this inspired or born?
Well, the efforts on this particular book began, as Jay was describing, really about 20 years ago. It was the original idea of Thomas Leonard and others to figure out, was there some way that in 30 minutes people could learn how to become a coach? And of course that isn't feasible in current terms, but we kept alive that spirit, that idea of how could we make the tools and things of coaching accessible to everybody in an easy and readily adopted way. So that really began the notion of, okay, what would be the essentials of coaching, what would be the keys to it that we could use with one another, and how could we have people do this with and for each other, so it wouldn't be the province of just people who are master coaches or have had extensive experience. And then about 10 years ago, I started a coaching program for all of the cities and counties and special districts in California. And they were very interested in figuring out, okay, how to match up the baby boomers who were going into retirement with the up-and-comers. And they would get them matched up, but then they would try to figure out, okay, well, what are we going to do together? And they didn't know how to go forward. So I needed to develop a very quick and easy approach that they could take to be effective in those relationships. And so that began this process. I started to do it with some cities around the country. That took off really well. I started to do it with corporations, and then people started to ask, well, where can I get your book? And so that seemed to be a great invitation to write the book, and Jay Perry, who had been a mentor coach of mine in learning the profession of coaching, was somebody that I turned to and wanted to eagerly involve in this, because we're really seeking to create something bigger than ourselves, something that's a movement, so that all people have access to these keys and the opportunity to use them and benefit from them for themselves and for others. So that's our mission, and we now have people in more than a dozen countries using this work, and we're seeking to expand that even further.
So how do you think leaders can, there's a lot of great ideas in the book, obviously. What I got, one of my takeaways was owning your story. You are the writer of your life. You are the author of your career, your inspiration, your talents, what you're trying to achieve. But as leaders, how do we shape that with our leadership and, I guess, discovering what's around us, the talents around us, and then our talent? I know I'm asking a couple of questions, but help leaders understand better the premise of the book a little bit.
Sure. I was laughing because I think there are at least two important questions that you're asking here, and I think the first one, if we're going to address leaders, we're going to address organizations. Organizations have worked hard over the last 20, 30 years to recognize that not all employees are the same. That we have diverse populations, not just ethnically and racially and gender-wise, but people are different, and so we've developed all of these different assessments, MBTI, DISC, work traits, all kinds of things to help people recognize perhaps their own strengths and the strengths of others, and be more empathetic, and also to be able to play their own strengths. What all of those programs do, as valuable as they are, is that they stop short of saying each of us is actually unique. And each of us longs to express ourselves, not just a category of person, but ourselves. And I think that's been a little scary for leaders and for HR professionals to say, gosh, what if we actually encouraged everybody to be themselves? Would that be chaos? Well, what we've found is that indeed it's not chaos. It really subscribes to Daniel Pink's notion of intrinsic motivation. We try to get people motivated by the thing that turns them on, rather than try to do it with carrot and sticks. We've redefined what talent is for our own uses, and we found it extremely valuable, and so have others. So instead of defining talent as your strengths or a skill set, we actually say that talent is your self-expression. It's the joyful demonstration of your unique abilities that benefit both you and the world around you. And we could spend an hour just on the definition and the ramifications of that. But suffice it to say for this conversation right now, that if an organization is willing to treat each employee as an individual who is really eager to express themselves and enjoy the benefits of expressing themselves, but also in a way that benefits the organization, what you end up with is more creativity, more engagement, more innovation than you ever did by trying to fit everybody into a machine-like structure.
That sounds great. So what I heard you saying is, as leaders, we are flourishing the talent that's in our organization, helping them succeed, helping them find out what they like to do, what they are excelling, not necessarily from a skill set, but more from a creativity, almost as an artistic standpoint. Is that kind of a quick assessment of what you just discussed?
Yeah, I think that again, organizations are trying so hard to be to have a certain amount of control over what happens, which is understandable. You want to be able to control outcomes to the best of your ability. But we live in times where things are changing so quickly that it's hard to maintain control. It's hard to set up a structure that works today and is going to work next month and the month after and the month after. But what you can do is engage people to be really interested in giving their best. And we have some tools to help people do that very thing.
And how do you recommend for, I know probably, HR is no longer HR. It's all about, HR has gone now to where I know I'm one of those managers that have to develop the skill set of the HR talent management and development. I do coaching myself with the team that I have, so I feel as though as we're developing the talent, we're working with the talent, making them shine. So I feel as though as a leader, our roles have changed because of the philosophy that you share on talent.
Well, I think it's absolutely critical what you're highlighting, Tal. There's really a fairly stark choice facing organizations and HR and the leaders within them, and that is essentially, are they going to try to hold on to the trickle-down approach of the organization figuring out kind of from a command control perspective what's needed and then try to get people to fill those slots, which is a very mechanistic model where organizations really come out of the word organism, and organisms are life giving and growing and changing. Or are they going to really seek ways to let talent bubble up in organizations? And that's really what Take Charge of Your Talent does, is give people the tools so that they can tap that intrinsic motivation that Jay was referring to and have the talent come forward from that source. So, and this changes the dynamic entirely, because then people are running off of their own initiative, off their own motivation, rather than the person at the top trying to encourage everyone down below and have them, in essence, run all off of the knowledge and skills and energy of that top leadership of the organization. And that just can't work anymore. It doesn't work, as Jay was describing, because things are changing too fast, and it doesn't work because the generations that are coming forward into the workplace are much more independent, much more wanting to figure out how they can make a difference, and much more wanting to follow their own paths and how to contribute and be successful in the organizations that they serve. So it's time for a major shift to occur, and that's something we wrote about recently in Leader to Leader journal about really talent development 2.0. What's needed in this new environment to make talent work more effectively? And that really links to the 3 keys that are in the book, and we'd like to share those with you and your audience here so that they get a quick sense of how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 3 premises of the book is talent story, accelerating through obstacles, and creating something you can show to people. And I'm a little bit paraphrasing the 3 points, but in listening to some of your conversations and reading the book, is that a fair outline or philosophical outline of your book?
Well, maybe Jay and I can each share a little bit with you about this. I'll pick up the first one, Jay. You might work with him on the second. The first key is to power up your talent story. Each of us has a story about our talent. You know, we're doing thus and such because, or this is where we are in the world, and this is why we're not further along or where we'd really like to be. We all have a story that is written about that in our minds, and something that we project to other people. The key is to power up that talent story, to make it from one where people are typically positioning themselves as victims, like I could be doing so much more but the economy is down, or our budget's been cut, or my boss won't let me, or a whole variety of things, all of which are true in a way, and we're not trying to say that people aren't being honest. It's just that the question for them is that how you want your story to end? Or do you want to write exciting new chapters in your talent story where you shift from being the victim into being the hero? Because all heroes face obstacles and challenges. The issue is, you know, what are the opportunities that they pick up and how do they take action? So the very first thing is a talent catalyst conversation, which is about 45 minutes. That's the distillation of sort of the best of coaching, if you will. It's accessible to people to do with one another. They can learn how to do this in the course of the conversation itself, so they're learning to fish and catching a fish at the same time, if you will. And it's a very powerful way for somebody who, with generous listening, to be a catalyst in the thinking of somebody else. Not to take over control, not to tell them what to do or anything else, but rather to be that reflective listener that's holding forth what the person is hoping for in their lives. And hopes are an avenue to get to really one's best thinking and to overcome that victimization that's so debilitating to people in advancing with their talent. So that's the first key, is to really power up that talent story, to take charge of that story for oneself, to position oneself to be a hero in the future chapters of that story. Jay, you want to talk about the second key?
Sure. Just to amplify a couple of points in what you were saying, because it's always been, I love listening to stuff about this because I always learn something when I'm just when I'm listening to it. Um, One of my favorite quotes of all time is by a social historian named George Gerbner, who said, "What distinguishes human beings from all other species is that we're the only ones that tell stories and then live by the stories we tell." So just to amplify what Don was saying, we don't want to underestimate the power of the story. You know, the story ceases for most of us to be a story and becomes reality. So if you've bought into some notion about what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you're capable of, what your ceiling is, you know, any of those things, it's likely that your actions are going to be a correlate to that and the results are going to be a correlate to the actions. So powering up that talent story, being the hero of it, is really to say, I have a vision. There's something I care about. I have some pretty big hopes. And I'm willing to move forward fully aware, as all heroes do, that there are likely to be obstacles in front of me. But it's not. I'm not going to stop at those obstacles. You know, our sort of warrior mythology says we're going to fight those obstacles. It's sort of St. George and the Dragon. But I think there's a wonderful way for us to relate to the obstacles in front of us that really is going to help us take charge of our talent. And that's to accelerate through them. But I mean, you could take that as two meanings. One is to move quickly past them, but the other is to say I'm going to accelerate through them, you know, using them as a vehicle to accelerate my progress in life. And that's because it's the obstacles themselves that provide the opportunities for us to learn and grow. They're actually the reason why our talent's important. If there were no obstacles, it wouldn't matter whether we had any talent or not. You know, just a football player has no defense. You give them the ball and they dance merrily, skip, they could roll, they could do anything, just down the field to the end zone, because there's no obstacles in the way. So by shifting our focus and the way we relate to obstacles to one of as our friend I just forgot his name. No, it wasn't Jim Kuzas, but Jim Kuzas said it too. I'm sure there are many great people in the world who say this, that it really is the crucible of greatness, obstacles. And I think any leader, and this does come out of Jim Kuzas' research, that any leader who has been successful will attest to this, that it was the obstacles that made them a great leader. So we have a number of tools in the book. I should actually sit down and count them sometime, but there's 15, 20, 30 significant tools to use for different kinds of obstacles that we're likely to encounter. One of them is just to stay motivated, because when we get in touch with our hopes, when we get in touch with that spark, that passion that we have to move forward, that's really, really valuable. But life can just sort of empty the tank quickly. So we need to find ways to keep those hopes humming. The second is to take opportunities to learn and grow, so that we are always in that growth mindset, as Carol Dweck puts it, that we're moving forward, going, oh, that didn't work. What works now? Oh, I was disappointed with that. What is there for me to take away from that to move forward? And what's the third one, Don? I'm passing it back to you.
To challenge yourself to stretch.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I was passing it back to you.
To get out of the world, to get beyond one's own, box and constraints, and to find what we call a healthy stretch, which is, you're not frazzled, but you're also not on autopilot. And a lot of people, struggle to find that right place. And there's some key tools in this, key number 2, that accelerate through obstacles, that help people figure out how to get through those, and how to figure out what that right stretch is.
That is one of the things that Jim Kuzas highlights in the Leadership Challenge too, is that the most successful leaders and the leaders that employees see as the most successful and inspirational leaders are the ones that provide them with healthy challenges. Again, not overwhelm them and work them to death, but not get them into autopilot and say, yes, you do this job well, so just stay there and just keep doing what you're doing. That's all we need from you.
Right. I do want to share just a little bit of feedback on what you guys were touching on. And this is the reason I think a lot of people can relate to the material and the book, because in some there is a voice in the book that talks to each one of us, because each story in the book is actually our own story that we're trying to shape our life. At least I know it spoke for me, because I am working on my talent as I speak right now with you guys. And it's just that notion of experimenting, willing to fail, willing to have the gifts inside you shine, and believing in yourself. Um, I wanted to ask a question. I don't know if we have time, but some people say, or there is a note in the book too, that many of us are waiting for that golden opportunity for somebody to open that door for us. And I'm one of those people that opened the door about a year ago with social media and writing and blogging about leadership, and this is where I am less than a year ago. So I am a testament to what you write in the book. So I want to share the aspirations I got from the book. But talk to me about, just real briefly, because I know we're crunching on time, but about some people waiting for that golden opportunity. What can you offer to them as an advice?
Oh gosh, Tal. First of all, thank you so much for sharing that, and for having the courage to move forward with that. You know, one of the lines from the book is the perfect moment is now, and I think that it relates to the title. The whole reason we ended up titling the book "Take Charge of Your Talent" is that we really think this is something anyone can do at any time they choose. Is there going to be a better time? I don't know. You know, why not do it now?
Right.
And so rather than have to wait till the boss gives you permission or a new job opens up, or, you know, we've certainly had lots of conversations like, well, the company policy is I have to stay in this job a year before I can move on. And again, those become sort of conversations that enclose people and have them think they do have to wait. So that's why we've created this role of a talent catalyst. As Dan said, you know, you can train to be a talent catalyst in a very short period of time. There's only 3 things you need to do. You need to be willing to be a generous listener, which means you may need to fight your instincts to tell your own story, or to you know, jump in and give advice. But just be willing to reflect that the words, the sentiments, the emotions, the intention of a person that you're listening to. The second is to ask open-ended questions, which is one of the skills of a good coach. And we provide a script of open-ended questions that we've developed through our studies of neuroscience and working with, you know, thousands of clients, just to, in a particular order, to open up possibilities for people and help them to retell the next chapter of their story. And the third thing is to ask for people's best, is to be willing to challenge them or offer advice, but only with permission. So you're never infringing on the other person's freedom to take responsibility and to take charge of their own talent. They're not leaning on you. So because it's set up like this, you can ask somebody to be your talent catalyst. My wife has had talent catalyst conversations with me. She's done it with my son. You know, before she had any training in this stuff, he just said, "Here, honey, here's the book. Oh, have a talent catalyst with my son." And yeah, he at the time was working at a job where he wasn't particularly happy. It was in the film business out in Los Angeles, and she asked him what his hopes were, and he surprised us both by saying, well, he really wanted to write more, and he wanted to become a certified yoga teacher. And that was the first time we'd ever heard about that. It was really out of the blue. And that was about 8-9 months ago. And last month he became a certified yoga teacher. He's left his job. He's written a TV pilot and is working on a second one. He's had a long op-ed piece published in the Los Angeles Times. So it's just remarkable that all somebody had to do was give him the opportunity, say, you can do it now. You don't have to wait for anything.
I like the, maybe in the future we'll discuss this, but I like the talent conversations, because as leaders we need to be familiar with those talent conversations. And I think that on a personal level, as leaders, we can add more value to our team by having those talent conversations, because I know that when previous mentors have mentored me and developed me, it was about having a talent conversation. It wasn't called back then a talent conversation, but it definitely made an impact on my career. So I think we need to do that more as leaders, to have those talent conversations, as you mentioned.
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot here, Tal, but have you had a talent catalyst conversation yet?
Not as of late, but would like to have one.
Well, grab the book. You got a copy of the book.
Yeah.
Find someone that you know and trust, and ask them if they'd be willing to play the role of a talent catalyst for you.
Definitely.
All the instructions are right there in the book. It'll take you less than an hour. You can do it over a lunchtime.
Well, some great tools, guys. Don, you have any final thought?
Well, I just want to underscore really your own story here, Tal, and how you've really done some critical elements of what is key 3 in the book, and that is to multiply the payoffs of your talent for yourself and others. And I think your example of creating this blog and doing the whole video program and so on is your effort to offer your talent in ways that become tangible and shareable with others. And that's the third key of the whole process, which is to multiply that. So you could sit there and kind of read books and do this all for yourself, but no, you've gone the extra step of sharing that with other people. And that's what makes the talent tangible. That's what makes it valuable, and even more valuable to yourself and to others, because now you're getting known for this. You're sharing it with the leadership network that you're part of. You're doing a whole variety of things that are getting it out in the world. And that's really what we want for everyone, which is to have a way to make those talents that they have tangible, and to then have them as proof points, if you will, of what their brand is, what they're offering to the world, and therefore open up opportunities that they can be serving others and benefiting themselves even more. So I wanted to underscore and acknowledge your work in this, and how you're a great example of that third key in action, and why it's so important for everyone to figure out how to do that with a talent that they have.
Well, I got my inspiration for that from a lady that has made an impact and served many people, and that's Oprah Winfrey. She spoke about the word intention, and what is the intention behind what you're doing, whether you're talking to somebody, or you're reading a book, or you're sharing something with someone. She has turned down many interviews and many other deals in her business if it didn't have the impact of serving somebody. You know, what can I take away from this conversation? How can somebody, my intention in this conversation, I know we have some golden nuggets in the conversation, is how may I serve you? How may I add value to your daily basis and your daily life? Because what you're going to take is going to increase your talent in what you're trying to do. So I thank you both. I know you guys are on a little bit of a time crunch, but I really appreciate it. I hope that we can continue those conversations and add value to other people.
Well, great, and we really encourage people, if they'd like to get some more information, it's available free on the website, takechargeofyourtalent.com. They can click on and get a complimentary copy of the introduction to the book if they'd like to learn some more. And they can become part of what we hope is, and already is becoming, a much larger movement of people around the world who are learning the keys to take charge of their talent, and to do that in ways that benefit themselves and others. And we really encourage your viewers to participate in that movement, to make it something that's valuable for themselves and something valuable for others as well.
Great. Hey, Jay, you got the final word.
Oh, thank you.
There you go. Thank you guys for your time. I know you have to go, but I hope to keep in touch with you guys in the future, and get more of picking your brain a little bit more than what I already have.
Well, thanks so much, Tal.
It's been fun, Tal.
All right. Take care. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.